Hello, this is Russell Dobular sitting in for Jimmy, who's performing in El Paso, Texas tonight. Kurt is at Bohemian Grove today, so he won't be here. He has to check in with his Dark Masters. But I am joined by Keaton Weiss. How you doing, Keaton?
Doing great. Just got back from the Columbia encampment. I had a nice encounter with Mike Johnson. Very relieved. I was feeling a little backed up for a few days, and now
they don't call him the glory hole of the house for nothing.
Yeah, I feel great. That's what he's there for.
Yeah, old Hoover lips.
Yeah.
So Mike Johnson went over to Columbia, which Keaton took full advantage of. And he was met by a wave of heckling. So let's take a look at that.
Mike, you suck! 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 Mike, you suck!
I'm not sure who the aggressors are, but I will tell you that any of that is inappropriate. It's lawlessness. It's chaos. That is not who we are. We believe in the rule of law. That is one of the foundational principles of America, and it must be maintained. Stop wasting your parents' money, Congressman Lawler says. I think that's right.
Okay, so then Mike Johnson did a series of interviews, and actually I watched the speech so that you don't have to, that he gave at Columbia. And he just spread dangerous misinformation about beheaded babies in ovens, things that were debunked back in late October, early November. And he just repeated these things as facts, very much like my esteemed colleague has pointed out. It's like they folded time. It's like we just went back like the last 5 months never happened. And
exactly,
and he just went ahead and repeated it. So let's see what he had to say.
Well, what's anti-Semitic is that Hamas endorsed this protest today. Within the last 2 hours, they issued an endorsement statement and heralded the students here and said, this is the next generation of leadership in America. If you're getting endorsed by Hamas, that's not a good look. It's not a good sign. Some of these students apparently are...
what about when Republicans get endorsed by Nazis, which happens on the regular?
I was just about to say, I'd love to see the list of organizations that endorsed Mike Johnson and endorse Mike Johnson every time, right? I bet you got some people on that list who you wouldn't be too proud of if the media decided to make a big deal out of it.
But he gets better.
Aware of the atrocities of October 7th, or they're denying it. They deny that women and children were brutally raped and murdered, that infants were placed into ovens and cooked alive. The things that happened there are unspeakable, and yet they're out there waving flags for the very people who committed those atrocities. This is not who we are.
Just repeating completely debunked stories that no credible outlet will stand behind. This is months ago that the Gray Zone covered this, methodically debunking the Times' bogus report alleging Palestinian militants systematically raped Israelis on October 7th and respond to their own critics' sloppy attacks. Let's take a look at what Matt and Aaron had to say.
It's worth addressing that after so many debunked Israeli claims, the dozens of beheaded babies, the baby burned in an oven, the baby cut out of a woman's fetus, the fetus cut out of the womb. Now Israel and its supporters are really doubling down on these claims of mass rape by militants on October 7th. And we pointed out a lot of the inconsistencies in those stories, but it persists. And the Biden administration has really tried to push it as well. They've made a thing out of it. Hillary Clinton came out and made a thing out of it. CNN, Jake Tapper has tried to make a thing out of it. And now the New York Times has come out with a new story that people who buy into Israeli claims are really promoting, that making the claim that Hamas used sexual violence as a tool of war, that there was a deliberate effort to use sexual violence as a tool of war on October 7th. But once again, people are overlooking the countervailing evidence and the inconsistencies even inside this own story, including the very quiet acknowledgement. And this is what a lot of the story is about. It's basically an elaborate effort to justify the fact that there's no physical evidence.
Okay, so the Times, while they never formally retracted this article, Scream Without Words, it's kind of infamous now. It's been thoroughly debunked, most famously by The Intercept. They did an article called Between the Hammer and the Anvil, if you're curious, that really broke down how flawed the reporting was, how they hired people with no meaningful experience or relevant qualifications to be investigating something like this. A lot of these claims come from a group called Zaka that has absolutely no forensic training and has a history of false stories. This is well known that the New York Times canceled a podcast episode based on this article because the story blew up in their face. But here is Mike Johnson, months after this has been debunked, continuing to make these claims. Keaton, you have anything?
Well, all they can do is try and make you angrier and angrier and angrier about October 7th. That's what all of this is, right? Now, yes, as it turns out, so much of what they say turns out to be false. I would say if every claim you made about October 7th were 100% true, it does not and would not, never, ever justify the collective bombardment of a population that mostly had nothing to do with it. Right. I mean, it is all just this way to emotionally manipulate people into feeling angry about October 7th so that they'll be less angry about the Israeli response. Yes, a lot of it's untrue. To me, whether it's true or not, yes, it matters, obviously, for the historical record, right? We have to actually, be able to keep track of these things, and that's what history is, and so you have to sort these things out. But in terms of, just like the real time goings on of the war, what's happening now is a genocide against a population, 99.9% of which had nothing to do with anything that happened or didn't happen on October 7th. We're not denying, because we have to say this on YouTube. Don't worry, I have Jimmy's back while he's in El Paso. We're not denying that a violent event took place and that people were victimized and that people were hurt and people were killed. That's true. So we're not denying that, YouTube. So chill out. But that does not justify genocide in response, because genocide by definition leaves way too many innocent victims, to the point where all they're doing now is trying to gin up. They're just trying to get you in a rage so that you feel like, well, they deserve it. They had it coming. Who had it coming? The 33,000 people who almost none of them had anything to do with what happened on October 7th?
Well, what you're seeing now is Israel really throwing everything they've got at this. 2 weeks ago, what were we talking about? Well, after the WCK kitchen airstrikes, they've lost the propaganda war. That's it. Morning Joe is calling for sanctions. It's over. And now they cut a deal with the Biden administration to go into Rafah. That's what some reporting would indicate. And the order came down that they have got to do a full court press now to muddy the waters so that anyone who objects to genocide is cast as an anti-Semite, or maybe there's an anti-Semite. You know what they're at least trying to get back to? It's complicated. As Elon Pape said, the greatest propaganda feat that Israel ever accomplished was convincing people this situation is complicated. They're at least trying to get people back to throwing up their hands, right? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's anti-Semitic. Maybe it's not. If they can get the American public back to that, they win. They win. That's what this is all about. So Representative Ilhan Omar responded to Mike Johnson's visit.
And it is not surprising that he would go out to Columbia University and stir up really more anger and hate and endanger the lives of young people who are at the encampment at Columbia University.
Okay, so Mike Johnson responded to this on the Brian Kilmeade show.
So you stirred things up in her mind. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd for her to say that. It's incredible that us going there to meet with and speak out on behalf of Jewish students' safety could be seen as divisive in any way. This is exactly the problem. It's actually an issue that ought to be uniting every elected official, but some of these folks are afraid to speak out, and others, like my colleague Omar, are saying exactly the wrong thing. Look, if these universities would be held accountable and protect their students on campus, we wouldn't need to be there. We wouldn't need to speak out. And the House has taken action to do everything that's within our power, and we're going to do more. But we need everybody who has a platform, every elected official, to be on the right side of this. And sadly, some of them are doing exactly the wrong thing.
Well, some Democrats.
Okay, so I just want to point something out here. Now, I really don't like Ilhan Omar's phrasing there. I am not a fan of safetyism. I am not a fan of trying to shut down speech, which Mike Johnson has a right to speak. He has a right to say things that are factually incorrect, and we have a right to correct the record. It's unfortunate that there's a clear double standard. Mike Johnson spreads dangerous misinformation as he is doing there. He's certainly not going to be yanked from tech platforms the way people who might spread other kinds of disinformation, like nothing happened on October 7th, which, as my colleague pointed out, is not what we believe. They'd be shut down right away. But this kind of misinformation is acceptable. That having been said, I don't think safetyism is ever an argument. I don't think arguing that someone's speech is endangering people so they shouldn't be able to speak or they shouldn't be able to go places, that's never an argument. But what has really been brought to light in all of this is the conservatives sound just like Democrats now. What did Mike Johnson say in response? He's there to protect the students' safety. Everybody's in the safety cult when it's convenient for them. Before, they were so opposed to that. They were so in favor of free speech. Oh, look at these crybaby lefties. Now they sound exactly like them, right? These protests have to be shut down for student safety, in spite of the fact that there is no record of Jews being physically assaulted in these protests. It's a complete fiction. Keaton?
Also, what happened to him while he was there? Was he assaulted? Was he threatened? No, they chanted, Mike Johnson, you suck.
It's chaos. Right? You called it chaos.
They're just describing what they saw him do to me behind one of the hedges there. That's all that meant. They weren't even trying to insult him. They were just, they were just saying what they saw. Okay, but
yes,
that's all that happened.
That's a
Mike
breaking
Johnson,
story
you
here.
Threatened him. They didn't assault him. Like, was it danger? Did he feel in danger there? Let's ask him that. Hey, did you feel like your safety was in danger there? You had students who rightfully didn't like you shouting you down while you were speaking. Anybody throw anything at you? Anybody shove you? Anybody accidentally poke you in the eye with a flag, as we're going to do a story on later?
Yes.
Right? Nothing at all. What was the big deal? Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, hey, I live less than a mile from Columbia, and I must say, it's well known when you see a bunch of Columbia students coming down the street, you better cross over because you never know what they might do to you.
Yeah.
That's a rough crowd over there.
That's the rough part of Harlem. Yeah.
University. That's the tough part of Harlem. South Harlem there. So
you stirred.
All right. So just to show you what bullshit this is, and God bless this kid for speaking out. This is from Khaleesi, not the one that ruined season 8 of Game of Thrones. This is another one. A Jewish student taking part in the encampment of Columbia University says he feels 100% safe. So let's take a look.
I'm a Jewish student at Columbia. When we talk about anti-Semitism on campus, that's taking the spotlight away from Gaza, away from Palestine, and the Palestinian students on campus, and putting it back onto me. I am perfectly safe here, and this has all been a distraction because they don't want us talking about the non-stop massacre of Gaza, of Palestinian civilians being taken out by the IDF. I grew up being taught that Israel was an important part of my Jewish identity, and part of being a Jew was supporting Israel. I was raised Zionist, and then I met a Palestinian for the first time and heard their perspective, and was able to realize that I was on the wrong side of this, that I'd been taught the wrong side of this. To me, calling in the police was an act of desperation. They know They know where the students stand. They saw the students come together to support their suspended and arrested friends. We see that other universities are following in our footsteps, and we welcome them. We just want to make sure that they do it in solidarity with Gaza and with Palestine, and that the focus is not on us. But we hope that this can be an important step in the liberation of Palestine and an end to the occupation and an end to the genocide.
Where are the flying tacklers? Where are the pro-Palestinian people taking this kid down for what he's saying? He's in so much danger there. Keaton?
Yeah, no, we played that video on our show. That's a great video. It's very important that people share videos like that. I thought that was a very strong one, but that's by no means the only one of that type. And it's important that people get the word out because, look, we already won this information war. The only reason we have to do this all over again is because we don't have these sort of media apparatus that can just on a dime turn from 2 weeks ago where the Morning Joe panelists were saying we have to sanction Israel to now all of a sudden full bore Yo Israel. What the fuck? What's the name of the high?
Am Yisrael.
Am Yisrael High. Yeah. So whatever the fuck it is. As you can see, I did not go to as much Hebrew school as you did. But whatever. The point is we've already done this before. Like, it's not fair that we have to do it again.
I believe that would probably mean like long live Israel. That's my guess, because Chai means life. Obviously, Yisrael is Israel. The Am, I don't know, but that would be my guess.
Makes sense. But yeah, look, we've already fought this battle. We've already won this battle in terms of the public mind. And so it's really quite unfair and unfortunate that we have to do this all over again. But if we have to, we will. Like, the alternative is just giving up, and we can't do that. And so when you see a video like that, you have to share it, because we've already won this information war once. We can win it again. Right. We just can't let them outlast.
We cannot let up. Exactly. Right. That's how I felt preparing the segments today. Like, it's our duty. It's our duty. We have got to counter this, because they are doing a full court press right now to, at the very least, muddy the waters. They are desperately trying to throw the ick onto protesters, particularly onto student protesters, which, as you pointed out, it's an easy target because people tend not to like them, particularly students at a university like Columbia, right? Perceived as upper class, as elite. So they're going to try to play that card. Johnson did play that card in the clip we had. Stop wasting your parents' money, right? He's trying to he's trying to invoke that whole thing. And it's sad because these kids are actually doing something good, and that's the treatment they get. And as we're going to see in the crackdowns on them, hey man, just like the Vietnam generation, welcome to America, kids. Now you know what country you live in. Question is, what are you prepared to do? What are you going to do about it? You're going to fold, or you're going to double down? So far, they're doubling down. Good for them. So this is, there were some reactions. Juanita Broderick, interestingly, well-deserved boos for Speaker Johnson at Columbia University. She's kind of been absorbed into the right-wing ecosystem because the left sure as hell isn't going to platform her. But remember, when Bill Clinton allegedly raped her, she was working for him, right? She was a Democrat. So I'm curious. She
wasn't officially working for him. She owned a nursing home, I believe, at the time. But she wanted to get involved with.
Well, she was trying to promote his campaign.
Yeah.
Tim Young, Speaker Mike Johnson said that the Columbia University president is a very weak, inept leader and should resign, which is funny because most Republicans think Speaker Johnson is a very weak, inept leader and should resign. And there's Khaleesi again. He is Israel first. The students are America first. And honestly, I think that's a pretty good framing.
Yeah.
Anything else, Keaton?
No. I think that was a perfect way to say it, and look, Mike Johnson is a very unpopular figure with the Republican base right now.
Right.
And so whatever jujitsu you have to do, whatever sloganeering you have to adopt, to drive the point home, do it, because it sucks that we have to do this again. Like it
really
sucks that we
does.
have to do. Like, I feel like we're doing the same type of segments that we did 5-6 months ago. And obviously, our suffering is very small compared to the suffering out there. So I'm not complaining about it, but I'm just saying, like, this is the kind of thing where if this starts happening again and again and again, it's easy to kind of roll your eyes and throw your hands up. Oh, what are we going to do? The only thing you can do is keep doing what you've been doing the last 6 months, because it worked.
Right.
And through some act of unknown fuckery between some deep state agents that we don't know who they are, how they operate, there were clearly phone calls made and emails sent that we all have to get in lockstep behind this transparently bullshit narrative again, as if the last 4 months never happened, as if the Jabalia refugee camp bombing never happened, as if the raid on Al-Shifa never happened, as if the WCK murders never happened, right? We're back to square one in that sense. But the fact that we've done this all before proves to us, A, we can do it again, and B, they have no case. Like, they don't have a case. All they have are the tools to get the message out. But the message is still paper thin, and we can cut through it, and we will, because we have to.
Well, in many ways, this is history repeating itself strangely right around these anniversaries. This week is the anniversary of when Columbia University was occupied by students in the Vietnam era. They were protesting both Vietnam and a gym that was being built in Harlem, where the residents of Harlem had to go through a back door in a basement to use it. So they were occupying for both. And same thing, they called the police in, arrested 700 people. And this week, we're about to hit the anniversary of Kent State, in which I believe it was 7 students who were gunned down by the National Guard. And hopefully we're not on the precipice of repeating that event. But when you see some of the footage coming out of Emory and the University of Texas, you have to wonder.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate shitty coffee? I, for one, really hate shitty coffee, which is why I'm excited to introduce to you a company that's revolting against shitty coffee, and it's called the 1775 Coffee Company. Now, I haven't had it yet because I only drink decaf. Steph has had it. Steph, how do you like it?
I really like it. I've been, you know what? I have a French press, and so I've been using my French press and totally enjoying it. It's delicious. It's smooth. It's smooth.
So 1775, the world awakened. In 1775, the world awakened to a new era. And now it's 1775 Coffee Company is bringing you a coffee that embodies that revolutionary spirit. Crafted with passion and precision, our beans are ethically and exclusively sourced from the finest coffee beans farms of Bolivia. Didn't know that. 1775 Coffee Company's farm-to-cup journey ensures the highest quality of authenticity and sustainability from start to finish. With each sip, your palate will recognize and appreciate the dedication and passion that goes into crafting this single-sourced brew. 1775 Coffee Company takes pride in offering customers a truly exceptional coffee experience with their premium coffee collection. But their dedication to this revolution extends beyond the realm of taste. Safeguarding freedom of speech is critical right now, which is why 1775 Coffee Company has joined forces with Rumble in defense of one of our most fundamental rights, freedom of speech. Coffee that's sure to awaken all your senses, including the sense of freedom. So choose 1775 Coffee by going to 1775coffee.com/litter. That's LITTER, and use the code LITTER for 10% off the checkout on your first order. 1775 Coffee, brewed to perfection, crafted with revolution. Hey, come see us do a live show in El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Denver, Colorado, Los Angeles, California, May 19th at the Zephyr Theater. That's a panel show with video. Ashland, Virginia, Athens, Georgia, Rutherford, New Jersey, Minneapolis, Ontario, California, Irvine, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.